Here is the ad that Senator Jeff Sessions is referencing as evidence of Donald Trump's history of courageous conservatism. A full-page spread in the New York Times calling for the execution of the wrongfully convicted and imprisoned teenagers known as the Central Park Five. Trump was one of the loudest voices proclaiming the guilt of the Black and Latino teens accused in a brutal assault in the 1989 Central Park jogger case. And he continued his crusade even after they were exonerated by DNA evidence. And another man confessed to the crime. In a 2014 editorial in the New York Daily News, Trump called the $40 million settlement between the Central Park Five and the city of New York a, quote, disgrace. Matt, Tara, and Gian-Carlo are back with me, and joining the panel, Mark Thompson of Make It Plain on Sirius XM. Thank you very much for coming across the transom here to talk with us. So, embracing the idea that Donald Trump's conservatism is tied to his having called for the death of 5 black and brown teenagers in the Central Park Five. Add that, if you will, to his palling around with Rudy Giuliani, whose tenure as mayor of New York was not pleasant for black people in this city, and who apparently is now helping write his Law and Order speeches. What do you make of that, Mark?
Well, first of all, having someone like Jefferson Beauregard Sessions,
yes, as
you say so well in the Confederate tone, to have him, to flag for him, says a lot in and of itself, because Sessions himself is not on the U.S. District Court because of a lot of things he did. He called a former assistant U.S. attorney a boy. Who
was African-American.
Who was African-American. He prosecuted civil rights activists as a form of voter suppression and voter intimidation. He said he thought the KKK was an okay organization, and he supported the nomination of art segregation as judges. So to have him come forward and say that, along with Bannon, along with Giuliani, along with everything else we've seen even in the past 48 hours, further confirms that Trump is running a racist campaign.
And you are, in a lot of ways, Gian-Carlo, who you surround yourself with and who your campaign is run by. I want to play a little bit of Donald Trump's convention speech. This was the first time he was sort of restricted to prompter. Take a listen to Donald Trump speaking at the convention, Republican convention.
In our nation's capitals, killings have risen by 50%. They're up nearly 60% in nearby Baltimore. In the president's hometown of Chicago, more than 2,000 people have been the victim of shootings this year alone. Nearly 180,000 illegal immigrants with criminal records ordered deported from our country are tonight roaming free to threaten peaceful citizens.
Carlo, that speech, which, you know, sort of focuses on kind of scary brown people, if you want to put it in one phrase, was written by staffers to Jeff Sessions. It was sort of, the reason it sounded so stilted that we've heard sort of in the reporting, Robert Costa and others, is it was sort of written in the voice of Jeff Sessions. So that association goes back quite a ways. That cannot be helpful to the Republican Party that is now claiming Donald Trump.
It's not helpful at all. And as a practical matter, as a matter of campaign tactics, again, going back to the speech that Trump gave Tuesday night in Wisconsin, he made a reasoned conservative argument for why the African-American community should look to Republicans and look to him to lead them. And he made the economic argument, he made the academic argument, he made the social welfare argument in conservative terms. Why is his campaign not focusing on that and instead choosing to roll out people like Jeff Sessions to say crazy things that are just going to stir up the racial divide and racial unrest? It doesn't make any sense. The blueprint, I would understand it if this campaign were completely clueless, but they showed some promise in this speech the other night. And why no one is demanding or encouraging Mr. Trump to stay focused on things that can actually help him bewilder.
But can he do that? If, I mean, the people who cheered the loudest when Mr. Bannon was hired were the alt-right. We're basically the new neo-Nazi movement. They have been openly supportive of Donald Trump. They're calling him the dear leader. They have been attracted like nothing else to this campaign. Can you do both of the thing that Gian-Carlo is very rightly saying that Republicans should do and be associated with that?
Absolutely not. As I said, I tweeted this. I said Donald Trump assumed in his speech that black people have severe short-term memory loss of some sort, because to come out and to say you're making an appeal to the black community, the African-American community, after playing footsies with white supremacists, in particular David Duke, who said Donald Trump inspired him to run for office, to devalue the what the contributions that African Americans have made to devalue the first black president of the United States
as a birther,
demanding his college transcripts. That was a huge dog whistle. The birtherism, also a dog whistle. But what I find so offensive is that Donald Trump, when he comes out and he says this speech saying that he's appealing to black people, he says, I want to help our black people in the inner cities. First of all, not all black people live in the inner cities.
Right.
We live throughout the diaspora of this country. And then also when he comes out and portrays with these numbers that are wrong, while black people, there are some black people who are suffering, there are a lot of black people in this country that do well. And what's implicit in that speech that he made is that we are not contributing to this country. That is what's implicit in that speech. And so he may say that's an appeal to black people, but he appealed to us without any knowledge of our community, and that's what that speech
To say nothing of tweeting out statistics claiming that black people were on the killing spree against white people. But the question that I have as a member of the media, Mark, is they're also counting on, in terms of short-term memory, the media essentially saying, well, here's the pivot. The media has been building in this desire to see Donald Trump pivot. If he doesn't, then do we expect to see the media just go off on this new track with him and forget all of the past and the things that he said for the last 18 months?
Yeah, this is no pivot. And with all due respect, Gian-Carlo, that speech wasn't anything. If anything, what it was once again that well-worn, cliched right-wing argument that African Americans are somehow slaves and subjects of the Democratic Party without our own agency to make decisions and to be self-determining in whom we vote for. There's been no pivot. Someone, a mentor of mine, called me just as I was coming upstairs and said, if we're going to say he's pivoting and accept what he's saying, then we may as well go to prison today. And for everybody in prison who says, I'm sorry for what I didn't mean it, just let him out.
Yeah.
And just forget it, act like it never happened.
Yeah. All right, well, we appreciate you guys. Matt Welch and Tara Dowdell will be back. I want to thank Gian-Carlo, Peressutti, and Mark.